Hey, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff, not here with co-host Chip, off site for today. We'll be back in the studio tomorrow, back at it. Chip and I, going into in-depth here on the chain into the crypto space. But today we're going to dig into and we're going to talk a little bit about this big movement in the crypto space over the past couple days. Ripple XRP on a tear. Right now, sitting at a $1.15, 115. It's probably up about 52% right now, 51, 52, 53% over the past days. And really, we're starting to see massive growth in general. Once again, is there now a complete separation of the crypto space from the rest of the financial space? We want to dig into that. We're going to talk a little bit and address how the CBDC space is interacting with crypto. Is it? Can it? I don't know. We need to talk about that. I know Chip doesn't like talking about CBDCs because they're not really as relevant. CBDCs are nothing more than a digital form of the fiat currency that everybody's grown to come and love, right? So there's so much for us to dig into. I've got a whole bunch of great topics that we're going to rip apart here. One of them I want to get into Ripple really coming out, over and over and over again on their Twitter. Oops. And hang on a second. Hey, sorry guys. Hang on one second. Hang on a second. This is a little disruptive here. Hang on a second. Sorry. All right, unexpected. Completely unexpected there. Here we go. All right, how do you like that? That's what happens when you do a stream outdoors. Anyhow, so so a little bit of a disruption. Didn't even get to kick things off yet. I'm going to get ready to kick things off here in a minute because we've got a ton of things to go over. And I guess that's it. I didn't even get the startup going here a second. Here again. There we go. All right, everything thrown off a little bit. Let me rotate the camera a little bit, and we're going to kick this off. A little bit of chaos. But that's okay because tomorrow we'll be back in the studio. Let me kick this thing off.
Welcome to On the Chain.
There we go. How do you like that? So anyhow, all right, let's figure out where we are to gonna get this going. We are going to talk about banking. How about banking with XRP? How about dogs barking in the background and everything else? Let me see what we got here. All right, so before we get started though, I do want to give a quick shout out to permission.io. Let me pull that up here. Here we go. There you go. So brought to you by permission.io. And you guys understand, you guys know, every time you're browsing around the internet, you run into all sorts of ads, whether they be it from Google or Facebook or otherwise. You run into all sorts of ads that they're obviously monetizing off your data. They collect your data, they sell your data, they transact in your data, and making billions and billions of dollars off of your data. Permission.io is doing something a little bit different. They're giving you the power of controlling your data and allowing you to monetize your data, which is huge. Who doesn't want to be able to monetize their data? If you're already going to have it online and you already have to interact with it online, then hey, that's great. Why not make a little bit of earn a little bit from it? So permission.io with the ASK token, ASK token. Every time something pops up, they'll say, hey, you want to watch this video? You say yes, you watch the video, you engage in it, and you earn some ASK token that you can hodl, you can spend it, and basically watch it go up in value like many of the other tokens in the crypto space. So it's outstanding, great way to interact with it. So anyhow, let's get into this. Got the laptop down here. We got all sorts of stuff. Is that a cafe? It isn't actually. No, I'm actually sitting on the porch. So Matt LaRoche says, is that a cafe? No, really, it's so I'll give you guys a little bit of a pan. so you get an idea of where we're streaming from today. Here, let me just turn this a little bit here. Here you go. There you go. That's the complete pan from the patio here. So yeah, it's a great spot. Let me see. Whoops. Here we go. I don't want to be. It's hard to find the exact location where I wasn't running into too much sun. So we've got the got the neighbor's dog running around over here. So anyhow, there we go. Here we go. Are we back? Okay, we're back. So anyhow, that's how we get into all of this. DNI. Oh, look at that. DNI's in here right now too. So you guys had the pleasure of speaking with DNI the other night with Chip, which was outstanding. What a great show those guys did on Thursday night. I thought it was, really, really spot on. His question here, did I see the IMF bat signal? That's right. So we put up the IMF bat signal. We talk about global finance and the geopolitical connection to the global finance, and DNI pops in. So that's great. Let's see what we got here. Got silence is golden. Morning, Jeff and Chip. Love this show. Keep the truths coming. Best wishes all the way from Newcastle. So one thing that we know, right, is that we have people that tune in from all over the world, which is outstanding. Why? Because crypto is a global phenomenon, and we have to understand that. Here we are in the US, and we're very US centric in terms of what our expectations are and what we want to see happen out of the crypto space in the US. And obviously we want the US to maintain a leadership role, in the development of cryptocurrency and technology. And we talked to Antonio from Blockquake the other night, and we asked him some of those types of similar questions. Obviously, all over the world, since it's a global phenomenon, that means that there's input coming from all over the world, and development and expectation coming from all parts of the world. But what we really want to focus in on is, how does that then impact everyone? Check out Stuart right now, 40 degrees, that's Celsius over in Dubai. And that is hot. That is really hot. That's not a dry heat. Well, that would be a dry heat, but dry heat doesn't, to my point, really doesn't make a big difference. So, and then we've got Elvis talk up in the UP of Michigan. That's a way, way top part of Michigan. You might as well be on your way to Canada or Wisconsin at that point. So let's see what we have here. We've got just looking at some of the comments. I thought it'd be fun to kind of dig through some of the comments here, but shout out where you guys are from. That way we get an idea what part of the world you guys are tuning in from, and that'll be great. We've got Crypto Lux tuning in from Florida as well. So let's see here. Steve, you got it. You got 100%. I am waiting. It hasn't arrived yet. Can't figure out where it is. So, all right. That was funny. The other dog is gone. And that's the one dog that my dog doesn't get along with for some reason. So, anyhow, all right. Where are we? We got to dig into this thing. We got to unpack a few cool things. Now, as everybody knows, and I thought that this is, really, really, key, because, as we've seen, the SEC case, SEC v. Ripple, or if we've seen what's been happening and transpiring in the Senate as they rolled out that infrastructure bill, and they tried to, at the last minute, kind of cram in and pack in some crypto language, which would have really had a detrimental impact and will have a detrimental impact on the future development of cryptocurrencies in the United States, as far as how those running nodes or developers, builders in the space will then have to react, or they cannot react. And we don't want to spend the whole show talking about that, but the one point that I want to take from all of this, whether it's the SEC case via Ripple, or if it's this infrastructure bill with the Senate, is that the cryptocurrency community is louder and stronger than anybody could have imagined. So for all these years, with all these bills that have been put in front of Congress, and really more or less silence from the crypto community, there obviously some of us have been very vocal and talking about it, but as an overall, with people across the board, we haven't heard a lot of conversation and a lot of pushing coming to Congress and saying, hey, you guys got to get your act together. You guys got to do something about this. And now all of a sudden you have this major SEC case against Ripple that we're all very familiar with. And all of a sudden the phone lines are packed, just absolutely packed with people. And they didn't expect that. They don't know what to do with it. The SEC is still going down their one track mind. They kind of have a tunnel vision objective of getting more power in this new asset class and trying to figure out how to dominate and manipulate it versus allowing the CFTC to have control. So now we're seeing a power grab within government over the crypto space. So you have the SEC doing their thing. But again, the one thing that they did not expect was how vocal, how loud, and how strong the cryptocurrency community is locally in the US and on a global scale. So we're just beginning to see this is really just the beginning of everything, because before, if you go from zero outspoken and to what we're hearing now, it's loud and clear. And so now you take it even a step further and you go from the SEC case via Ripple, and then you go into the Senate trying to pass this bill that, again, was relatively unexpected, that all of a sudden you're going to have people ringing the senators off the hook, right? They're just nonstop, phone calls and emails and tweets about the Senate removing the crypto language from that infrastructure bill, stating that it doesn't belong in that infrastructure bill. And then you have every senator, so 100 senators that now are talking about nodes and talking about proof of work, and they're talking about cryptocurrency. They went from 0 to 100 overnight. And to me, that is, extremely critical, because if you have the Senate having zero conversation, and now every senator has to have conversation over it. Not only that, but they're hearing from their constituency. They're hearing from the people that voted and put them in office. And now guaranteed, there are going to be quite a few of these representatives that just will not be there, during the next election cycle. Why? Because the crypto space is going to be so outspoken that it's moving from pure investment, and it's going to be heard on, when it comes time to vote. They're going to say, hey, congressional representative, hey, senatorial representative, you do not represent my interests, and you made a direct attempt to undermine and destroy the innovation of the cryptocurrency space in the United States, and that will not be allowed. So imagine if all of this was transpiring during the beginning stages of the internet, and they tried to destroy the internet. Would people have been as outspoken about the internet in the early days as the cryptocurrency space is right now? Why wouldn't it have been wouldn't people have been as outspoken? Primarily because there isn't a financial gain out of it. So most people now, they're looking at the future trajectory of this new asset class, saying this is revolutionizing everything. When you add a new asset class and you change the way money is transacted, and you change the way things are represented on the blockchain, it changes the dynamics of everything, from logistics to authenticity to what we're seeing roll out with the NFT space, unique things that are still, they're trying to find their space, to moving money efficiently and cheaply, to taking full control away from certain government entities that are fighting over control and dominance over how you can manage your own money, or even more so, how governments around the world have manipulated how people can have direct access to controlling the existence and the financial benefit and outcome of their own life. So if you look at all these developing nations around the world who, for the most part, have been subjugated by all of these international bodies like the United Nations as a direct example, where they become oppressive organizations because they make billions and billions and billions of dollars off the backs of people that live in these developing nations. It's more beneficial for a United Nations organization to keep parts of Africa poor because they make money by supporting those poor nations and moving product and money and food and whatever it is, and they take their cut off the top. That's where the money flows. Now, as soon as you remove those types of elements and you start allowing people all over the world to have a little bit of a hope, a little bit of an opportunity to do for themselves and make their own money, it changes everything. It's a fundamental change in the entire system. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of pushback. But those are some of the things that we have to be very cognizant of. We have to be very aware of what's going on in the space because of that. And why is it so exciting? Because then as we look here in the US right now, this infrastructure bill is now moved to the hands of the Congress, to the House, right? So now the House is looking at it, and the House of Representatives is sitting on this idea of a $3.5 trillion budget. And expenditures. And then you have the Senate that just pushed to them a $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill with crypto packed into it. But we saw that crypto from out of nowhere, all of a sudden the cryptocurrency held up an infrastructure bill for like days, 3, 4, 5 days. It stalled the passing of this infrastructure bill, again, because the cryptocurrency space is more outspoken than anyone expected or anticipated. Now it goes to the House. So when it sits in the House, they're looking at it, and this is where you have more individuals on a bipartisan from a bipartisan perspective that understand cryptocurrency. At the Senate, Ted Cruz said it the best, where he said there's probably not even 5 in the Senate that understand cryptocurrency. You get to Congress, there are 5, at least 5, that understand cryptocurrency. And we know that they're bipartisan. And so that means that there's Democrats, Republicans that support cryptocurrency and understand that you cannot undermine or try to take away any form of opportunity from the US to allow there to be a participation in this innovation. And so we're going to see a lot of great things that are going to be happening here in the very near future as this goes into the Congress. And now this is the point. This is the point of trajectory, because regardless of what happened, and it seems like it's a net positive. Once there's conversation, it could be positive, it could be negative conversation. It doesn't matter. It's moving the needle of cryptocurrency forward. All of a sudden, you see XRP as an example moves from where it was sitting at like 50 cents. Now it hit it's sitting at $1.15 right now as we speak. Bitcoin on its way back to 50,000 and beyond. XLM hovering around 35 cents. XDC hit some all-time highs, and now I think it's sitting around 14 or 15 cents. Ethereum 3,200 and beyond. So there is so much going on within the crypto space, and this is where it gets exciting. This is where it's interesting, because again, I believe also that the people themselves have become comfortable with the idea that they now understand, because of the response to the Senate, regardless of what happens in the US, this is a global phenomenon, and the people are more outspoken than any of the governments could ever have anticipated. And we see that there is some clarity in other parts of the world. You go over to the UK, you go over to Japan, you go to Portugal or Spain, or so many parts of the world where there is clarity on cryptocurrency, and they're also trying to do their part in adopting cryptocurrency understanding within the country, because they understand the value as it's growing. And we've talked about this so much, but there are so many countries out there that for the first time will actually be leaders in the financial space, whereas they go from basically followers and non-active participants in the global economy to being leaders of the new global economy. How crazy is that? So it's all about how they look at the digital asset and the cryptocurrency space, which is super exciting, So let's look here. This is interesting. So Angela is saying the difference now is that people actually have the tools and ability to make changes. It seems like the world's going crazy. I think it's the powers that be last grab. I kind of agree with that. I think that they're not going to allow economic power to just slip out of their grasp, especially the brick and mortars. I don't expect banks to go away. One thing that we talk about, and Chip referenced this the other night, is that right now the forecast of the battle for control over the direction of the next century of economic development and growth is going to be whether or not the banks are going to get themselves together and start buying up the cryptocurrency exchanges, or are we witnessing the growth, the rapid growth of the cryptocurrency exchanges to where they're going to start buying up the banks? And that's the open debate right now. I'm starting to see more and more of the cryptocurrency exchanges that have billions and billions and billions of dollars. Now, if you tread on their space and you do it without full clarity, then in that scenario, we see what's happening to Binance. Binance has run into a wall that they did not expect. They are the most powerful, and therefore they are the ones that will be singled out because they are overstepping their space. They stepped out of line to a point where they're doing things that they don't have permission to do or an acceptance to do, and they're starting to step into the space that is kind of the last bastion of these big institutions. And so that's where you're seeing some pushback, my opinion anyways. I'm not saying that's 100%, but definitely, my opinion on, how we're starting to see, some of these things, unfold. So let's see here. Let's look here. So here's something else that I wanted to get into. And I think this is really key. Let me see if I can pull this up, and then I want to see if I can share the screen on these two articles. And this kind of fits into the overall narrative here. Let me see. Let me get rid of this. Just want to make sure I can share this easily without any issue. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Let me see if I can share. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. I'm gonna have to do one by one, I guess. So this is something that we've been seeing on and on and on, right? So Ripple has been very, very focused, very effective at some of the things that they're talking about. Now, in this scenario, you have, look at this tweet. look how key this tweet is, right? Let me see, make sure I'm sharing. I'm probably not even sharing it yet. There we go. Okay. You got to click and click. So here we go. All right. So Ripple, liquid, fast, affordable, right? This is RippleNet's on-demand liquidity. Now, the one thing that we know for certain is that, one of the things that that Ripple has been focused in on is their on-demand liquidity. How critical, how important is on-demand liquidity to the overall movement of funds around the world? It's the game changer. Liquidity is a game changer. If you're able to provide liquidity, then having on-demand liquidity, having this RippleNet solution that allows you to do it affordably, inexpensively, and happens almost immediately, and providing the liquidity to transfer millions and millions of dollars, game changer. To take a break for the espresso, have to use a big cup, no espresso cups. Today is Illy Day. So Illy espresso, not the best, but it's decent. Went with the pre-ground because we don't have the coffee grinder with us, and it's not bad, not bad. All right, so here's Ripple is really focused on, see how ODL helps financial institutions reduce the cost and delivery time of cross-border payments. Now, we know that this is the epicenter of their solution. This is where Ripple XRP is shining, right? Again, if all they were doing is providing a Swift alternative, what good would it be? It's just another messaging platform. And in this scenario, in this scenario, having on-demand liquidity, having the mechanism to help move the funds is huge. It's major. So let's look at some of the commentary here. So what I like about this, though, is that, again, and this tweet just came out. So this tweet was yesterday. And, they're very, very hyper focused on we need to keep getting the word out that the on-demand liquidity is great. Why? Because we're going to see that others are trying to push CBDCs, while R3 is also trying to push their solution, while Stellar and the Stellar Foundation is starting to see the development and rollout of remittance structure on a more rapid scale also. But none of them have the on-demand liquidity, which is, again, by far the most important. Not like XRP so fast. You can kind of get a representation of what people are thinking about the space. Okay, how does it help the folk without preserving the intermediaries? That's a great point. If there are intermediaries, I think that's definitely a question that needs to be referenced. Obviously, Bitcoin. I wonder if he's a Bitcoin maxi coming in from Hungary. Maybe not. But he brings up a point. Are there intermediaries that are involved in the movement of the money? Some of these third parties. Do you have to preserve some of those third parties? Are the third parties all of the same issue? And is he really, in this case, is he focused on how critical it is to move the money instantly, to have the liquidity, to take all these billions and billions and billions of dollars that are sitting stagnant in Nostro and Vostro accounts? Greatest of all time, XRP, the real king. Is this a $1 currency? Rethink again before it's too late. All right. Can you buy this on Robinhood? No. Michael Brooks' testimony is great. You should tweet the video. So anyhow, I mean, I love anytime you get into it, you're going to have pros, you're going to have cons. I like this though. Look, don't you have any cool Africa news or anything you can drop? What's going on in Africa? There's a ton of development over there. Well, what's happening along the lines of Ripple? We haven't really seen anything monumental or significant coming out of Ripple movement or remittance payments yet, focused on Africa, but we see a lot going on over in Asia. So let me reshare. Let me remove this. Hang on a second. I'm gonna have to do these one by one. Having only one screen here makes it a little bit more difficult, but we'll get the hang of it here. Here we go. Now I can see that I probably have to move. I'm not sure what direction I have to move in to get the best lighting. We'll figure it out. It's going to be pitch black. Let's see. There we go. A little bit of lighting. Let's see. Nope. We'll figure it out. Okay. So let me go back to adding this to the stream. There we go. So this is, and let's try to go and see this one. Let's go full screen. There we go. So this is interesting, right? For those that haven't really dug in and said, hey, why on-demand liquidity? What is the relevance? What is the significance of on-demand liquidity, and why institutions, are they focused in that space? Look at this statement here: free your working capital, deliver instant cross-border payments without pre-funding. You don't have to pre-fund account. That's what the Nostro Vostro is all about, is pre-funding. Innovative financial institutions thriving with ODL. So there are a couple out there that are doing really, really well. So Osimo is one of them, uses on-demand liquidity for faster international payments into the Philippines. Look at this statement here: Ripple's ODL solution has significantly reduced the cost and delivery time for cross-border transfers, and our customers are seeing the benefit. Free up working capital and get ahead of the competition. If you don't have the liquidity, you're tying up capital. You're putting it someplace that you're not able to use it. And so if you have a service that can provide the liquidity, again, to really underscore this is the solution that Ripple is working on. We have to understand, the significance of that. Reduce operational costs and unlock capital. This isn't new. The fact that they're continuously now tweeting about it, again, they're ramping up their efforts. They have to ramp up their efforts. One of the reasons they have to ramp up their efforts, let me get rid of that. There we go. One of the reasons is because we're seeing more competition in the space popping up, and they need to be outspoken, but they're also being sued by the SEC. But regardless of the lawsuit, their focus right now is remittance payments and movement of money all over the world. And most of the corridors aren't being built between the US and anywhere else. they're being built in other parts of the world. But I like this. I like how they've simplified the concept, right? Liquid, eliminate the need for pre-funding. Fast, send payments instantly, anywhere in the world. Affordable, get best in market pricing on exchange rates. So think about that as well. The foreign currency, the exchange rate. What are some of the things that are tying up movement of money? FX is one of the biggest things that ties up the movement of money. Years ago, when I would do a lot of trade over in India, we had issues where business was shut down because of the exchange rates. The exchange rate would change day to day, week to week. All of a sudden they said, sorry, the rupee to the dollar, not so attractive anymore. We can't do this. If you can lock in an FX and you can have the payments go seamlessly and make sure that this is happening, things would transpire so much quicker. I mean, it could be really, really amazing, and for those that might be relatively new, maybe you haven't looked into Ripple as to what they're actually doing. Why is XRP one of the key aspects of their liquidity solution? But if you look at this, how the on-demand liquidity works, I think this is really key, and we're not seeing this with any of the other solutions, to this extent. Now, the other big component here is the bridge currency. So XRP is the in-between, whether it's a fiat currency or a CBDC or another digital asset. XRP is the bridge of all of these different currencies, which allows for seamless transaction of the FX. So here you have a sender. The sender is sending in dollars. They're moving their currency. I don't know what the P is. Maybe it's Filipino dollars. Not sure exactly. Don't know what that represents, but let's go with that. And then it's over here, and it'd probably be the Filipino, is it the peso? I'm not sure what it is. But here you have the receiver, and then you have individuals, institutions, beneficiaries. It's a seamless process for the on-demand liquidity, all flowing through and utilizing XRP. And they say, why XRP? Obviously, here it says it's ideally suited for global payments because it's quicker, less costly, more scalable, and sustainable than any other digital asset. Now, many of us that are here, we already know this stuff. This is elementary. For those that are just coming into the space, they're like, why is there such a big deal? And what's going on, overall with this concept? So we're starting to see big movements, and we're starting to see them ramp it up. And it becomes even more key because, again, like I was saying, you've got organizations like Stellar. So Stellar has been really growing, kind of quietly in the background. Stellar has been doing things that, we kind of know about, but yet they're doing it relatively, again, silently. So right now, the Stellar blockchain has a remittance corridor that just opened worth about $17 billion, right? So here it says they have a corridor that's open right now between the EU and Thailand. Now, how significant is this? Let's see. Let me remove this. Let me add, let me change over the screen share. Let's go to a new screen share, and we're going to tie into and key into what's going on right now with Stellar. Let me make sure I add the right one and not the bad one. There we go. Perfect. There were two articles. One just looks better. So, and that's not the one. Is that the one? No, hang on a second. Yep, that's the right one. They both have ads. All right. So either way. All right, here we go. So check this out, right? Stellar powered remittance corridor between 27 EU countries and Thailand goes live. So now you would expect this to be with Ripple because Ripple's setting up corridors all over the place. But check this out. So, they're doing some amazing things. To accelerate cross-border payments through the blockchain, a global settlement network platform, Velo Labs, has partnered with two other fintech firms to establish a remittance corridor between 27 European countries and Thailand. Now, it's amazing. One country, Thailand. So in Asia, we're seeing a lot of boom, a lot of development within this remittance payment space and everything that is required as a direct result, of this development over in Asia. Thailand, obviously benefiting from this remittance corridor, which is huge. So too are these 27 European countries. But here you have Velo Labs indicated that the corridor worth $17 billion will be hosted on the Stellar XLM blockchain alongside a partnership with Tempo Payments and Bitaza. So this is really interesting, right? So according to Velo Labs, the three companies are focused on solving the current cross-border remittance inefficiencies. The corridor will be anchored on the fintech firms network alongside. Now, what's interesting about this is that here you have the Stellar Foundation. They're using their protocol, but they're building their own solution. So now Ripple with RippleNet has the solution. They're using the XRP ledger. They're using the XRP. They basically, they have the technology. They have the solution. Here you have multiple companies coming together, trying to figure it out, go live over in Thailand with Europe. And man, here it says it aims to serve almost 600 million customers across Southeast Asian nations and Europe. Now, the one thing that we focused on with Stellar is that many times the Stellar solutions, and they're based on what they're doing for remittance payments, isn't focused on corporate, isn't focused on institutions, but they're focused more on the individuals. So the question here is, to really hone in and figure out, where is this going? What is the development? What are they focused on? How are they building it out? And I look at all of this as being extremely, extremely, complementary with one another. So if you look at what Ripple's doing on a global scale, institution-wise, and then you look at what others could be doing with the Stellar Foundation using XLM, possibly also in the remittance space, then in that scenario, you've really got two major players that are potentially dominating the remittance payments space. Obviously, there's others, but if you go back to where Ripple and Stellar parted ways, and there was definitely a difference in visions. You had one vision that was focused on retail, the other vision focused on big banks, big institution, big multi-million-dollar transactions. Stellar focused on smaller denomination transactions. And so when you have a difference in philosophies, they don't coexist together. You have to separate from that. Hence, you saw this split fork over to the Stellar Foundation. Now, they're quietly, silently in the background, continuously building and growing and developing. And people are kind of sleeping on this idea of what they're doing. Now we see them roll out a major corridor, working with multiple partners. It's really, really significant. It's so there's a lot of importance to that. We see what's happening with Ripple. We see what their agenda, their objectives, and then on the other side of it, you see what's going on with Stellar. Again, divide and conquer, because they're focused on two distinctly different spaces. So then you've got, I'm just looking here to see, obviously Cardano also 53% gains on Cardano in the past 7 days. Ripple or XRP up 54%. Dogecoin surprisingly up 37%. And then you've got Bitcoin growth in the past 24 hours of 0%, 0.2% in the past hour, and 8.5% in the last 7 days, which is, really important, overall. I can say that we definitely see some significance overall in what's happening in this growth. So, all right, let's see where we can go from here. There's something else good. A lot of good stuff. If you guys have any comments, feedback, throw it into the chat, and I'll get over there. If you have something specific you want to talk about, we'll get to that. Now, I think this is interesting because the conversation, if you really look at what goes on in the US, right? And they're like, no, based on what we saw in the Senate, you would think that, there's not a lot of understanding, obviously, at the Senate level. And you would think that everyone's going to go down silently and just let them, ram more fat into their ridiculous bill to begin with. But here's what people are ignoring, especially at the government level. Now, because at the government level, they're like CBDCs and, we got to be more, centralized. We have to control it. The banks are pushing back. There's a lot of resistance from the bank space. Now, the question again is, who gets to buy whom first? Is it the banks buying cryptocurrency firms, or is it going to be cryptocurrency firms buying the banks? Now, the one thing that is very, very obvious here is that banks on a broad scale are actually gaining more and more exposure to cryptocurrency, to blockchain. So check this out in this article here. 55% of the world's top 100 banks reportedly have crypto and blockchain exposure. So 55% of the top 100. So, that's a big number. That's, half of the top 100 largest banks, more than half are into it, are starting to look at this technology and invest in the technology and put money into the technology. Now, why is that significant? Because you can't say that they're waiting around for centralized fiats or digital fiat. They're saying, hey, you know what, the cryptocurrency is moving rapidly and we need to get a piece of this. So look at this. Global banking giants are reportedly increasing their involvement in the emerging crypto and blockchain firms by way of early and late stage funding for projects and businesses in the industry. How do they get involved? They're able to help fund. They're able to put money in, whether it's late stage or early stage. Many of the banks are very, they're very risk adverse. They don't want to take big risk, so they're going to come into it in the later stages of the funding requirements. Let all the the kinks get worked out, then they come in and invest, right? So here you have, this was a research that was done by Block Data, which is amazing. You have 55 out of the top 100 banks by assets under management have some form of exposure to, they call it, the novel technology. This involvement reportedly cuts across direct and indirect investment in crypto and decentralized ledger technology firms by the banks themselves or via subsidiaries. Now check this out. Block Data's research places Barclays, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs among the most active backers of crypto and blockchain firms, with JP Morgan and BNP also identified as serial investors in the emerging space. Now, remember that JP Morgan was also the one with Jamie Dimon that was the most outspoken against the digital asset space, against Bitcoin as a fraud, against the development. Then they decided they were going to roll out their own solution, their own JPM token. So it's amazing that we're starting to see this migration. We're starting to see this growth. We're starting to see this change of recognition. And now that the entire Senate in the US has now discussed it, debated it, had their voices heard about it, yelled at each other over it, still packed it into the bill, we see where people fall, still made it very detrimental to innovation, but yet they're talking about it. How critical is that? It's not a 100%. It has to go now to the House, just like we were saying earlier. But look at the involvement. Do you think now that all these banks have money invested, they're looking at the direction things are moving in, they've got a foothold in this space, they're investing in it. Do you think they're going to let those investment dollars just get washed up and turned to zero by allowing a detrimental move by the Senate or by the House? I think we saw it, the Senate put it in there very much, it caught people unaware and unprepared for what was happening. We could see they were very unprepared. And most of those that are issuing statements and making statements, you could tell also have no idea what they were talking about, yet they were reading prepared statements. So being that they were unprepared to have this conversation and it all happened over a weekend, those lobbying efforts from the banks also probably took some time. But there's probably a very, there's a conflict right now going on in the financial institutions and the banks and the treasuries, the central banks, where they're trying to figure out how do they maintain their control and not let their control slip away. And we saw that comment earlier on as well. And obviously it's such an interesting debate and battle that's going on right now. Let me see here. It's getting so bright. I didn't expect how bright it was going to get here. And now all of a sudden, it's getting so bright that I can't see the what's written on I can't see the laptop here. Let's see here. Let's see if I can see something here. I saw a question that popped up here. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can scroll back and find it. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. Let me see if I can read this. I don't know if I'll be able to read this. Let's see. Oh, Jeff, how much do you think is in Nostro accounts? Yeah. So I would say it's probably about that number. I think that's an accurate number. There's a huge amount of money that are sitting in these Nostro Vostro accounts. It's crazy, just sitting there, waiting for transactions. So I'm glad you brought that up. Really good point. There's a lot of money just sitting there. All right, let's see. Jim D. Let me see. These guys all came from PayPal. Yep. So, all right, here we go. Wow, it's getting so bright. It's going to be hard to look at this. Let me see what time it is. Okay, cool. So let's see what we got here. So here's something else that I wanted to talk about, which is, and I think that this becomes really important in the overall conversation as we get into this, which is looking at, oh, I opened it and then I closed it. So we saw what's been happening over in El Salvador. El Salvador, where they have now become to adopt cryptocurrency or Bitcoin as a legal tender, to the point where they even passed laws that would require people and retail to accept Bitcoin if you wanted to spend Bitcoin. Now, here we have an interesting article, and we're starting to see more and more conversation over Latin America's adoption of Bitcoin. Soon it'll be other cryptocurrencies, but they have to go with the first mover advantage. So here you have Argentina's president, and one of the statements that are coming out in this article, there's no reason to push against adopting Bitcoin. It says here, the president of Argentina has indicated that there's no reason why the country would push back against potential Bitcoin adoption. Now, he was speaking to a local media outlet. And I find that really interesting, because they bring it up and they say, here's what El Salvador is doing. And it says here, more specifically, received a question whether Argentina will look into launching its own central bank digital currency, or perhaps even adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. And the response was, I don't want to go too far out on a limb, but there's no reason to say no. Perhaps that is a good path to take. Now, even issuing a statement on that, and he's not against it. So you're starting to see the movements in these other countries, and let's call them, they're more on the developing side. There's still some, direct, there we go. Shoot, I can't track my cursor. So, we're starting to see, let me see here. Oh, okay. I don't need that. So it's really, really key, as we look at what's going on here. So anyhow, let me move on to this next one. So that was Argentina. Okay. So now let's move down. Okay, hang on. Binance, crypto coming. Here's an interesting one on R3, Beijing. Oh, here we go. Here's what I was looking for. Now, this is interesting because, as we were just mentioning, we were talking about the significance, the importance of what we're seeing with with Stellar, what we're even seeing with R3. So R3 is getting more actively involved, or they've been actively involved, but I think they're a little more outspoken on what's going on with CBDCs. But so is this. Look at this. Cambodia's central bank unveils cross-border digital currency payments from Malaysia. Now, again, Asia. Lots and lots of development over in Asia. Now, the central banks are all looking at their CBDCs. They're also all turning and looking at what China's doing with the digital yuan. Now, if they look at how China is ramping up their efforts for their CBDC, for their digital yuan. And their objective, if you go back to the Belt and Road Initiative of China, which is really regional influence, regional domination, utilizing their digital currency now that they've rolled out the digital currency. The Belt and Road Initiative was to have more influence, trade influence in the region, in the Asian region. Now, China has been working on that Belt and Road Initiative for decades. So, and you start seeing how they lay the groundwork and they build it up and they develop it. And now, as they're rolling out this solution, the digital yuan has now become more of an asset to them in order to try to leverage everything that they've been working on this Belt and Road Initiative to have more of a regional influence, regional dominance. Now, all these other countries, they also see that happening. And from their perspective, they don't necessarily want to see Chinese dominance in the region. So you have more and more conversation, just like this stellar solution from Thailand to Europe. Now you have the Cambodia Central Bank unveiling this cross-border digital currency payment from Malaysia. So you want to be able to tie Malaysia to Cambodia. They want their own CBDC. They don't want to have to rely on the digital yuan. So here you have this week, the National Bank of Cambodia and Malaysian bank, Maybank, launched a mobile cross-border remittance service. Users of Baycon, Cambodia's payment system that uses a quasi-central bank digital currency can now receive funds at a lower cost real time. Now, what's important about all of this is that, this is, all of them are trying to push forward because they've all identified that remittance payments are a major, major problem. Now, look at this. This is because a large portion of international remittance is made from people sending money back home. That's the motivation. Improved cross-border transaction is their motivation. They need to figure it out. Look at this. In 2020, the total value of remittance across the world totaled 702 billion, of which 540 billion was to low and middle income countries, according to the World Bank. Now, that's a massive amount of money, right? That's moving in the form of remittance payments from foreign workers back home. So we're talking about 702 billion, but 540 billion moving money. So the banks understand it. They want to streamline it. They want control over it. They don't want to jeopardize their control or their influence. Now, as you look at that, though, is that CBDC the best solution, or should they be piggybacking on something like a RippleNet or what Stellar Foundation is working on? So can these all work in tandem? Now, these guys are going to start rolling out their CBDCs, and eventually they're going to realize that there's a communication gap. There's an issue that each one of these CBDCs, although they might have a rail now put in place between Cambodia and Malaysia, maybe Thailand won't accept the rail that Cambodia's central bank is trying to roll out, because now every single country is going to have to set up potentially their own rails, or they're going to then partner with an organization like Ripple or R3 or the Stellar Foundation in order to facilitate the interconnectivity, being interoperable. Because as we know, the CBDCs are anything but interoperable. Most of these CBDCs are silos that, they have zero interoperability. So hang on a second. Oops, I don't even have the tab open. So I want to pull up something that I thought was really interesting that came out from R3 Corda, and this is a prime example. Let me see if I can open up this Q&A real quick. Let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see here. All right, let's share the screen. Let's share the tab. We're going to share the tab on, this is all about CBDCs. This all had to do and came from R3. Let's see here. Hang on a second. Okay, here we go. So let's dig into this. So look at this. CBDCs and interoperability, your questions answered. Now this is coming from R3. Now, obviously, R3's big play is trying to connect CBDCs, just like RippleNet and Ripple has discussed CBDCs a lot. Why? Because it's now inevitable that countries will develop central bank digital currencies. It's inevitable. We see China rolling out with it. Countries all over the world are testing them. We know that that's the direction they're moving in, but there's definitely some issue in the connectivity between one CBDC and another. And one of the biggest issues, which is why SWIFT came into being to begin with, back in 1974, is that none of the banks had common language. They were missing that component. Now, as all these banks roll out CBDCs, are they going to automatically bake them in with common language and common transactional abilities? Are they going to bake them in with automatic, FX exchange rules and all of these different things? Now, the problem is that no, there is no commonality as it stands right now. And I think it's really interesting that R3 kind of hones into some of these things. But R3's whole point was, how do we connect the CBDCs? Just like Ripple is going to have the same conversation to say, hey, how do we connect the CBDCs? We're not going to try to confront you, because both R3 and Ripple are playing on the big institution, big banking scale. The Stellar Foundation playing on the individual retail scale. So it's a completely different conversation that each one of these organizations is having. But it's really critical that we hone in on why it's so important to really look at what each one of these organizations is then doing with the CBDCs, because at the end of the day, the CBDCs are going to come into being, and now it's a matter of how do they then transact, how do they connect with one another. And so here you have, look at this. So want to know more about CBDCs? Okay, whatever. So they got this webinar, but look at this. What is the technical bare minimum required for interoperability between two independent CBDC networks? Now, I want to underscore this, is that obviously they're independent. Obviously there's going to be some issue. Look, it's possible to move assets from one party on one network to another on a completely different network with very little commonality needed between the two. The two parties don't even need to know that each other exists. And that's the whole point. They shouldn't know. There should be an easy connectivity, easy interoperability. All that's required is proof that the transaction has taken place, which is facilitated by finality at the smart contract level. So obviously R3 is talking about the CBDCs because they want to sell their solution. But the importance of even referencing this is that they're actively involved in the space, which is why Ripple is now also actively ramping up their conversation on on-demand liquidity, because you don't see R3 talking about savings or power savings. R3 isn't referencing power. They're referencing what's critical for each one of these entities. You get to the government level, do they care if one of the solutions is green, not green? Doesn't matter. They want end solution. They want to know that you have full functionality. Now, if it was running on Bitcoin, and obviously that becomes a different level of issue, but we're seeing El Salvador, Argentina, and many other countries that will begin to adopt into allowing Bitcoin as a currency. They don't seem to care. That whole conversation isn't as critical to them at the moment. What is, though, is speed of transaction and cost of transaction. So if speed and cost of moving Bitcoin is too high, then maybe they chose the wrong asset to start with. But here in this scenario, what we're referencing are the movement of these CBDCs. Now, they're already referencing that all this can happen, within the smart contract level, which is true. And it's important. But this is how it has to work. And then you have here, the finality can work differently on different platforms. So it doesn't matter what the end is. It all has to do with what's happening on the in-between, the interoperable part. But look, to ensure interoperability, are multinational standards, for example, ISO, required before they can be deployed? Now, one thing that is certain is that there should be an international standard. And here, however, in the early days of developing CBDCs, the level of commonality between them is unlikely to be this high to where there would be, but there should be. There has to be seamless interoperability. And we can get into it. You can say, do all CBDCs have to be on Corda? The answer is no. They don't. And I think that that's also very significant, that you want interoperability. You also want to open up the platform and allow different CBDCs that are on different platforms to communicate with each other. And that's the whole purpose of RippleNet. RippleNet is the in-between, is that corridor, is that interoperability using the XRP ledger, using XRP for FX, for on-demand liquidity, for speed of transaction, for low-cost transaction, for complete visibility of transaction. So, Corda, they're hinting at certain things, but yet, what exactly, what is the full solution that they're offering? They're trying to play nice with these CBDCs, which is exactly what Ripple is doing, because again, it's inevitable that CBDCs are going to roll out, and it's also inevitable that CBDCs will not be interoperable with each other. We're already seeing that, because if you have China rolling out the digital yuan, their objective is to dominate the region. They don't necessarily want to be interoperable with another central bank digital currency per se. They want every one of those regional players to utilize the digital yuan for trade. They want them using their platform. And so they're going to seamlessly allow you to get onto their platform. Once you're on their platform, that's it. You're using the digital yuan, and that's their objective. So, when you look at that, we have to have a very good understanding of everything else, that's moving around in this space. So, all right, let's see here. There's a lot. Hang on. Let's see. Hang on. What is this? Oh, my channel is prepping breakdance and knife and axe throwing. Hang on a second. I'm so far behind on the chat. Hang on. Let's see here. Let's see. Once I don't know what you guys are talking about. So, complete side conversation over here. Not 100% sure. It's going to be hard to dig in here and see. So anyhow, no specific comments, but I do want to put this up here. If you guys haven't done so already, check this out. You guys can easily, if I hit the right button, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe, you can hit the bell notifier. That way you get notified every single time we go live, and we do stream live 6 days per week. We stream Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow night's another night, and we will be back here, Chip and I, co-hosting here on the chain at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this was amazing. It is getting hot out here. I'm glad you guys were able to enjoy some of the backdrop scenery. One last pan before we head out of here, and we will check you back out tomorrow from the studio. We'll be back live tomorrow night, 8 p.m. And we will look forward to seeing you guys at that time. Have an amazing day today. Have an amazing day tomorrow. And we'll see you on the next one. I am out of here. If I can find the out, have a good one. See ya.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.